What up, Ho Biscuits? It's your girl Skitten, back at it again, here with my husband.
How's it feel to be stuck in shackles?
What?
Same intro, back at it again, stay safe and sanitize. It's like being in the Twilight Zone. Shake it up a bit, man.
I introduced you first instead of saying safe and sanitized. That was me shaking it.
Yeah, no, I know.
I did it. I did the thing.
I know, that's what I'm trying to point out.
First and foremost, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are staying safe and sanitized.
I'll do it myself.
What are you doing?
Snacking.
Don't snack. Don't snack. I understand that a lot of you guys will be like, how the tables have tabled, right? Because I used to be the one snacking in my husband's videos. But it's different, okay? Because I did not snack obnoxiously. I was just snacking. My husband is doing his best to make this the most theatrical production I've ever seen.
There's so much caramel and nuts in this. I don't know how I'm going to survive a video. Oh my god.
You're making a mess.
Oh.
You just dropped peanuts everywhere. Oh. Anyways, today we are here to watch an extra credits, extra history video. Chavezz was here for the history of coffee. We had a great time with that. If you guys haven't checked out those two videos, I'm gonna put the little thingy, and it should be here, but it might be over there because I forget that you can move it. But today we are here for the history of beer. I think beer is disgusting unless it's in a michelada, but my husband likes beer.
Yeah, ish. We found some pretty good beers to sample.
Yeah.
We're mostly one and done people with beer.
Yeah. But I'm pretty excited to learn about the history of beer because I do know that it was the foundation for a lot of things. Society as we know it, frankly. So I'm excited to see what this video has in store for us. Without further ado. See, I'm shaking it up like you told me to. Let's go ahead and get started.
Sumer, 4,000 years ago.
God damn.
The woman recites a hymn to the goddess Ninkasi as she works. Ninkasi, it is you who water the earth-covered malt. The noble dogs guard it even from the royals. It is you who soak the malt in a jar. It is you who spread the cooked mash on large reed mats. It is you who holds with both hands the great sweetwort, brewing it with honey and wine. You place the fermenting vat, which makes a pleasant sound, appropriately, on top of a large collector vat. It is you who pour out the filtered beer of the collector vat. It is like the onrush of the Tigris and the Euphrates. Then she takes a sip. This is the first known recipe for beer, the drink that built civilization.
Just go for it, man.
Thanks so much to World Anvil for helping us draft today's historical tale.
Because it's beer.
Because it's beer.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
This is also where I'm going to tell you guys that it took me until I was 22 years old, 22, to know that draft, D-R-A-F-T, right? And draft, D-R-A-U-G-H-T, are pronounced the same. I always pronounce draft as draft, and then the other one as drought.
Like water's missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or draught or drought, either one. I was a grown ass woman with a degree before I figured out that they were the same word.
Yeah, that makes sense.
While you watched the 5 little books drop in our opening graphic, you may have thought to yourself, are they really gonna spend a whole series on beer? I mean, is there really that much to say about it? Oh yeah, there is. In fact, our biggest problem isn't going to be how to fill this series, but actually how much stuff we're going to have to leave out.
I was going to say, there's so much.
Because the story of beer is that massive. From its origins of being brewed in Neolithic baskets, it rose to an industrialized beverage shipped around the world, facilitating many historical events along the way. From helping the British take over India to the establishment of food quality laws. Not to mention, pubs and beer halls have been the headquarters of many revolutions. From the Green Dragon Tavern of the Sons of Liberty to Hitler's Beer Hall Putsch. Beer's story is a global one. No one person or culture invented it. In fact, beer was probably more discovered than created. And that discovery happened all around the world, independently, so far back that we have no idea when it first came into being.
That's pretty fucking
beer
cool.
not only predates writing, it also predates pottery, domesticated grain, and possibly even settled villages and organized religion.
Yeah.
It's ancient to the point of being primordial.
Cthulhu.
First appearing in the archaeological record via traces of it on a potsherd discovered in what is now Iran. A potsherd that's 7,000 years old.
God damn!
So given how ancient beer is, how, when, and why it came to be requires some speculation. Now, alcohol would have been known to early humans, even in hunter-gatherer societies, because it occurs naturally. Fruit left out too long can naturally ferment and create alcohol. And that fermentation happens when a single-cell fungus called yeast feeds on sugars, producing carbon dioxide and ethanol as waste products. Seriously, forget dogs or cats. Yeast is actually man's best friend. I mean, just look at these little yeasty boys. Aw, cute little bubbly buddies. Sorry, Zoe, but it's kinda true. Yes, dogs helped ancient humans with hunting and security, and cats definitely kept the rodents down, and I know you do a wonder on my taxes, but yeast eats carbohydrates and poops out alcohol, an action crucial for making both bread and beer. Though Neolithic humans didn't understand fermentation or what alcohol was, they knew the important stuff. It was a substance that induced a state of altered consciousness and tasted pretty good. Good enough, at least, to attract elephants and monkeys, who also loved to get smashed on rotting fruit.
That's crazy.
This fermented fruit is what you know as wine, which we associate with grapes today, but has been historically made with any sweet fruit, from plums to dates, or even the sap of palm trees. Beer, by contrast, comes from fermented grain, which does not appear naturally. And to make it, you need semi-settled agriculture. So, here's how one theory suggests beer came to be.
Okay.
First, hunter-gatherers realized that grains were a steady source of nutrition. If you pulled grains from wild cereals like barley and wheat, then soaked or boiled them in water, they made an oatmeal or thin gruel that was rich in nutrients. Further, this could be added to soups as a thickener. And grain, unlike fruit and meat, could easily be stored for later. Throw a bunch of grain in a basket, and provided it doesn't get wet, it can last years. But you know, lugging around a basket of grain isn't really ideal while chasing a mammoth, so these hunter-gatherers started forming settlements where wild grains were abundant. There, humans learned to make bread 11,000 to 14,000 years ago. Then, at one point or another, some dough was contaminated by yeast, causing it to ferment and rise due to the carbon dioxide forming bubbles. Beer followed a bit later as an offshoot of bread making. And
so the bread that they had before was like flat bread, like patties. It didn't rise. Okay, I never thought about like what food, how different food would have been like so long ago.
You know, you talked about a couple times, you wonder how things came about. And the rise of technology before humans knew about things that don't happen naturally, that had to happen on accident.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just all circumstance.
Yep.
So the timeline is like there's so much space between the first thing and the second thing and the next huge space, and then it gets closer and closer and closer when you start to realize there are relations between things.
Yeah.
And that's what I find so interesting about that. It's like, yeah, man, like we didn't know what yeast even was. They didn't know microscopic organisms existed. They didn't know about chemical, changes that happen in food.
Yeah.
Food is science. It's not like a natural occurring thing.
Yep.
We had no idea about science, ergo, we couldn't figure out how to make different breads. But now, once you fill that gap, we have hundreds of different types of everything.
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy to do now that we know what it is that we're looking for.
It's just so interesting.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
And perhaps fittingly, given beer's reputation as a relaxing drink, the prevailing theory for this cultural-defining beverage's discovery involves someone being lazy. The thought goes that a grain store, maybe a basket, was left out in the rain and sprouted. Wild yeast then colonized the mixture, or someone either accidentally or on purpose dropped bread into it. Then afterward, someone decided to drink the resulting fermentation and found that it made them pleasantly intoxicated, and presto, the first keg stand, metaphorically. Then
I could believe that somebody would purposely mix bread in wet grains. Like a wet grain mixture. Because like as a kid, I liked mixing things together just to try to see what it would be like as far as food and stuff is concerned.
Right.
So that's completely imaginable to me. Somebody would just be screwing around with something and be like, this is actually good. Like I did a thing here.
Right.
Yeah.
Then it wasn't long until people were making beer on purpose. It appeared on the tabulation accounts of ancient Sumer, and a recently discovered brewery site in China is 5,000 years old.
Woo!
Our first recipe, quoted in this episode's introduction, comes from a hymn to the Sumerian goddess Ninkasi, praising her creation of the drink, while telling brewers how to replicate it. It was recorded 3,900 years ago, but is probably older.
Okay.
Yeah, beer was so important, it had its own goddess. Which makes sense, because it was a cornerstone of civilization. Humans in the Fertile Crescent increasingly took up settled agriculture in order to subsist off of bread and beer, a lifestyle that led to larger populations, permanent structures, and irrigation, aka cities. In these settlements, they kept grain in common storehouses, overseen by priests. And one theory goes that these grain stores gradually evolved, gaining more religious functions to become the first temples. And writing was invented to catalog their contents. In fat times, the temple would collect the grain, and then in lean times, they would distribute it.
Yeah.
And that distribution often came in the form of beer. Indeed, during the construction of the pyramids, beer was one of the main forms of payment. In fact, there's even a theory that goes, given the ecology of the area, the wine mentioned in the Bible might have been a translation error, and what people were actually drinking was beer.
Right.
In fact, it was a major selling point for living in cities. Eat bread, divide labor, ride out bad harvests, and drink beer. Heck, even in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which we have a series on and you can watch
They
here,
did talk
the
about
wild
that.
man Enkidu is civilized and turned human by the consumption of bread and beer. Beer had become the symbol of complex society and necessary for living in cities. See, the problem with cities back then is that human waste quickly poisoned nearby water sources, making them unsafe to drink. But the alcohol in beer was sufficient to kill any microbes that affected humans. So beer was not just a pleasure drink, but a necessary technology for urban living.
Yeah.
It was also a source of food, since beer back then was thicker than we think of now, more like a gruel or a Guinness. Kidding. Love my steak in a glass. Calorie dense and filling, it was one of the first things the temple gave out for famine relief. In fact, it was so thick that there were things floating in it, and people drank it through reed straws to filter out the bigger bits.
Oh, that's really unpleasant to think about.
Well, I understand the filtration, right, wouldn't have been a thing. Like, I understand that. I understand that in general, like, most things are not as clean cut as we think of them now.
Right.
Not as highly processed. I get that, you know. But it being like a
soup.
like a porridge.
Yeah. A stew, even.
With, like, other stuff in it, that's pretty gnarly, man.
Yeah. You know what beer is not like that? What's that beer I had the Michelob Ultra.
Right. Yeah. The lightest of all. It's like water, basically.
It's literal water.
This was also done in a communal bowl, starting a trend that would continue until today, where beer was a drink consumed socially in common, a sign of trust. Since with everyone drinking beer from the same vessel, there was no chance of poisoning, and along with other drinks from common containers, like coffee, tea, or wine, beer became synonymous with hospitality. Also, ancient people made a range of beer, knowing that if they tinkered with the ingredients, they could get different results.
That's
From ancient
cool.
Egypt, we see records discussing different types and styles of beer with different alcohol strengths.
Okay.
Granted, most beer people drank was short turned around batches that were only
Yeah.
1% alcohol by volume, but there were others left to sit longer to become stronger. Plus, there were flavor additives like honey, spices, and fruit. And though the fermentation process was a mystery, there was an understanding that some prized magical pots, called in records the pots that make the beer good, simply produced better brew even without dropping bread in. This was because yeast had permanently colonized cracks and imperfections in the pots. But to the ancient people, beer's transformation appeared magical, especially since it created an altered state when consumed.
Right.
So it's no wonder that it was used in religious rituals and associated with a range of goddesses.
I was about to say, cults! Talk about the beer cults.
Oh, yeah, goddesses. Because beer was largely made in the household at the same time as baking bread for thousands of years, brewing was primarily a woman's task. But further north, in Europe, change was coming, both to the process of making and consuming beer itself, and for the women who controlled production. But until we get to that part of the story next time, please history responsibly.
That's cool. That's cool.
That was super interesting. I really enjoyed it.
My favorite part is that beer is thick. I know that my ancestors did not survive that. We were from somewhere else because I have a texture issue. I would not have been drinking any fucking thick beer.
Imagine having sensory issues back then, and they're like, "Drink your beer, or you're not gonna go outside and
Can
play."
I
And
get
you're
a
like,
spoon? Can I squeeze it out? You have me tripping, dog. It's just disgusting. I need innovation, and I need it now.
Let us know if you are of age. Let us know your favorite beer down in the comments below.
Cut that out. It's the internet. Let us know your favorite beer that you tried, if you hate it or not. In the country, baby, if you work on the farm, you drive a tractor, you get a beer at the end of the day.
Right, but on YouTube, you cannot advocate for underage drinking.
It is not advocating for underage drinking.
So we're pretending that YouTube's been reasonable lately?
We're not pretending about anything like YouTube. Pick your favorite beer can. Tell which one is prettiest. Like a beauty pageant for those that are underage.
We really do have to go to that beer fest that we couldn't go to because of COVID.
I'm not going back to that till after COVID.
We gotta go to one.
It looks super sketch.
We gotta go to Germany.
The communal beer pot. Would they have one of those?
Well, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave your reaction requests and recommendations down in the comments below. And other than that, peace out, Ho Biscuits. It's Skittin' Lit.